Hello everyone. In this video, we will use Pandas, Polars, and DuckDB to analyze a data frame in parquet format. Pandas is ubiquitous in data analysis. Unfortunately, Pandas is single-threaded, so it is pretty slow compared to some of the newer technologies such as Polars and DuckDB. Both of Polars and DuckDB are written in Rust and they are multi-threaded. So it seems like there's a common theme that a lot of the data science tools are rewritten using Rust. All right, so let's go through how we analyze this data frame using these tools. So first, we just analyze using vanilla basic, Panda, and then later we will also use Panda using multiprocessing. All right. So of course we import Panda, timeit for calculating the average time, and matplotlib for plotting to make sure that we calculate everything correctly. So we bring in the data, and as we see, we have three columns. So by the way, this is a table of mortgage application. There are many other columns, but just strip it down to these three columns to keep it simple. So what do we want to do? We want to calculate the mean of these two columns of where I filter the applicant income by an integer k. Okay, and I do this for all k between 0 and 10,000. Okay, so here I use list comprehension to calculate all 10,000 value. Then I use timeit to calculate the time. So we see here with Panda, the average is about 16.2 seconds. Okay, and then I graph it. Right. So let's go to multi-processing. So like I said earlier, Pandas is single-threaded, so it's pretty slow. But we can overcome that by using multi-processing. So I import pool from multi-processing, right? And I bring in the data as usual, and this the same function as before. What I do differently is, I I use the multi-processing to turn this to multi-threaded. Okay, and again I use timeit to find the average time. So here, they do in 7 runs. So here, if I do multi-processing, the average time is about 4.73 seconds, right? Which is a dramatic improvement. Okay. Again, I graph it to make sure that the calculation I do is correctly done. All right. So let's look at polars. Right. Polars, I find that the syntax is very similar to PySpark. All right. It seems like it's a combination of PySpark and Panda. Right. On Microsoft Fabric, you have to install polars on your own, but it's relatively simple. Just install it and then import it, bring the data in, okay? And I calculate it differently. So notice that if you have done PySpark before, it's almost the same, right? So you filter, and then you select, and then you calculate a mean, right? Using chain, okay? Again, I time it, and the time is about 4.35 seconds, right? This is pretty good, right? And again, I plot it to make sure that the data, that the computations are done correctly. And finally, DuckDB, right? Again, I have to install DuckDB, bring the data in. Now, since DuckDB uses SQL, I can't take the average of a Boolean column, so I have to convert the Boolean column to integer column. Okay, create a connection to DuckDB. Right, then I register the data to my table, and then I used, to be honest, I had to use ChatGPT to calculate this. I find writing loop is pretty difficult in SQL. Now in TSQL on SQL Server is relatively simple, but for a standard SQL, I find it to be pretty difficult. So basically, just you use a union. Okay. All right. So here, right, the time is about 425 seconds. So among the tools that we've done so far, this one is the fastest, okay? So again, I graph it to make sure that everything is done correctly, okay? So, this file is pretty small. The Panda with multiprocessing, Polars, and DuckDB, they seem to be about relatively the same. In the future, I want to work on a much larger file to see what is the difference in the average time. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to my video. I will see you on